Oh, yeah. This is my kayak. Get yourself one. Fish on! Yeah! Oh, my God! Look at that tank! That's a toad, brother. Golly! All right, guys, so literally right out of the gate, one of the first things that I did is slid the seat as far back as I could, brought the foot braces back because I wanted to see how maneuverable the boat is. And, you know, one of the things that you'll see here is with just a slight sweep stroke, you can turn that boat 90 degrees really easy. But if you go back with a full sweep stroke, you can spin it more than 90 and it'll keep on coming around. And the reason that you want that in a riverboat is you want the ability to, you know, force yourself through holes. If you're running into a pocket, you may be able to paddle hard on one side, but you brace on the other side and turn the boat, and you want it to be responsive. But because this boat is so wide, and it's got rocker fore and aft, and it's actually got a little bit of a rolled up hull, you don't have super strong initial stability. So if you see right there, I'm gonna get that little bit of rocking. And I see a lot of younger, more inexperienced kayak anglers worry about that. What you want to worry about is if you get to this point right here and it just doesn't stick, that's when you want to be worried. But that secondary stability allows you to get that boat in a lean and spin it, and you spin it twice as fast, and that gives you a ton of maneuverability. The reason you want that lower initial stability is because you want some of the hull up out of the water. That's a lower coefficient of friction, less drag, and it makes the boat faster and more maneuverable. Cool thing about this boat, and I'll turn sideways so I can show it to you, is I'm gonna be able to trim this seat forward. I'm gonna be able to move the foot braces forward so that I can make the boat track a little better, put a little bit more purchase in the nose, and then you don't get that back and forth. And the cool thing about it is it's super easy to do it. You can do it right from the seating position by just loosening the knobs up and scoot forward. And you can use the stand up or sit down assist strap to help you do that. So I'm gonna adjust the seat position right now and kind of show you the difference. All right, so by scooting the seat forward and moving the foot braces forward, here's another thing that happens. I'm actually getting a little bit better initial stability because I've moved closer to the center of the boat. When you move further back, you rear the nose up a little bit, so you've got less of the pontoon in the boat. So what's cool about this setup is, especially if you're inexperienced from a river fishing standpoint, you can stay in this forward position, you'll feel real stable, and the more your skills evolve and the more comfortable you get in the boat, you can kind of scoot it back a little bit, get that nose up a little bit, and get a little bit looser. But if you notice, it's still responsive, it just doesn't spin, you know, the same as it did before, but you're still going to be able to get that responsiveness. So honestly, in this forward position, the way that it's set up, one of the cool things about it is you're going to be able to pop that paddle in your paddle holder, and you can scoot forward, grab that stand-up handle, put your hand on the back of the seat, and just pop right up. And man, I've never had any issue with Jackson Kayak stability, but when you're in the forward position of this boat and you're standing center mast, even without my feet all the way out, I've got no worries. But what you do want to do is you want to load one side of the boat. That way, if you're set the hook, you're already loaded on that side. You don't set the hook, lean to that side, get to feeling unstable, and then go out the backside. And like I've talked about with these boats for years, I think that your stand-up assist strap is more of a sit-down assist strap, just like that, than it is a stand-up assist strap. And so again, easy to sit, easy to stand, wide, stable boat. I'm digging this rod holder storage. So after I get a little bit of time on the water, I'll come back and give you kind of some updated thoughts on performance, handling, stability, comfort, and yeah, so let's catch some fish. All right, so Jameson, thanks again for actually not only bringing the boat, but you know, taking the time to spend a day on the river with it. It's not often that I actually get a chance to give the feedback, you know, directly to the source. You know, I understand this was a team design boat, but as the brand manager, you have to take all that input and make the final decisions on what goes into the boat and what doesn't. And so throughout the course of the day, as I was able to bring up some things like, hey, you know, why did this go that route versus this route? You're like, man, we almost did that, but we did this instead. And so I'm just going to kind of run through some of the stuff that for the most part we've already talked about throughout the course of the day, but, you know, give you the opportunity to kind of respond to it. You know, one of my favorite things about the old Jackson boats was that when you put your rod between your legs, there was those little, you know, protrusions or little nipples right there on the hatch. So not a big deal, but I just kind of wish they were still there. So I'll probably end up taking a heat gun and like a rod and making me some little dividers, because when you're standing up and you lean a little bit, they just kind of slide off to the sides.
Yeah.
But the hatch height, this bar, how it's aligned, everything about it is great. Even after we did the initial walkthrough, I didn't think I was going to like the rod tubes on the side, because I thought I was going to have to come like way back here and kind of walk my way down the rod to get the tip in there.
Yeah.
But literally, you just grab the rod right above the foregrip, you slide it in, and you just drop it right into the stager, and it's just as easy to get out. So a couple of the things that I didn't think I was going to like, I ended up liking. I don't know that those are great if you're standing up, because you pretty much can't get to the rods there.
Yeah.
But having those rods kind of out of the way, having one between your legs when you're standing and then having another one in your hand is perfect. The stability was surprising. Like, I expected it to be stable, but not that stable, because Coosas in general over the years haven't been stable. You know what I mean? They've been maneuverable. This thing is stupid stable. And so far, I would say that if you're not a confident river paddler, this is probably the best in class from a stability standpoint, mindless stability, where you don't have to think about it. In other words, think about a leaf going down the river, and you just throw that leaf in the water and you just watch it. It kind of finds its way through the rapid. I pretty much think you could do that with this boat.
Yeah.
You could probably do the wee paddle, where you just hold your paddle above your heads and go wee as you go through the rapids. And then for the more aggressive stuff, it's really responsive. I think you would want to have the seat back a little bit to get the best responsiveness. It's still pretty responsive with the seat forward, but what I like about having the seat forward is you're not constantly trying to, put your nose where you want it to if you're fishing, and it's not spinning like a top.
Mm-hmm. Gain a little bit of traction by moving the seat forward a little bit.
Exactly, and a little bit, not to the point where it's like it just completely locks the boat down, but it just gives you that little bit of extra drag, that little bit of extra pontoon engagement, and it gives you back a little bit more initial stability. So for a lot of folks out there that aren't really experienced and they don't have that butt switch dialed in yet for what a kayak feels like, you have that ability to sit in that center position all the way forward and feel super stable, and you can trim it back to get the best possible performance. I really wish there was a bar across the front. Just being real, I would probably prefer a bar to brace on, but then I could still use it for some accessories. Maybe throw a roto grip or something on there to compensate for that whole, hatch not having the little protrusions on it. And, I have a hard time getting my legs together just as a man in general. So I feel like the pedals kind of force my feet together a little bit. But when we were on the water, you said, bring them back a little bit and try them with your heels. And then the problem with trying them with my heels is it always felt like I was hyperextending my toe to bring it back just to get my heel engaged. And then when I did that, my leg kind of dug in on the bar.
Yeah.
So I like the concept of the pedals, and I know that the purpose of the pedals is so that you can use the outside track for your feet. But, even as far back when I'm really setting up and paddling, and maybe it's a timing thing, right? Maybe I just haven't gotten used to them because I'm so used to having my feet wider, embracing outside. But I don't also have a really big, here's what you ought to do solution recommendation, other than I do think a bar, similar to this crossbar back here across the front would be really beneficial. The boat has got such low drag that I feel like when you motor this boat, it's going to be super efficient because, again, it spins flat, which means there's not a lot of resistance,
right?
Which also results in a boat that planes well. And because it's got so much volume, the weight of the motor is not going to suck the boat down, and because you can trim the seat fore and aft.
Right.
But then you're going to get back into, now you've got to put some kind of steering setup on the outside,
right?
And you're getting into the point where you can't use the outside rod tube. So everything is give and take. What I like about the boat is that you've got so many options. You really can dial this thing in to make it yours. If I was to recommend this boat, I would really go hard on recommending this boat to beginner river anglers. And that's not to say that it's not an advanced river angler boat. I just think because of the stability, because of how wide it is, because of how much it maneuvers, and the adjustability of the seat, you don't have to have a lot of river skills.
Yeah, you got to
for this thing to perform well.
It gives you a lot of confidence. I feel like, and that's when, like when we went out on the water with Chris Funk, you know, he said that he's never been like excited about running whitewater, you know, and he's been in the Coosa for a long time. But he said when he went through the same stuff that he's ran in other boats, he's always had that pucker factor, you know. And
yeah,
he said this boat didn't give him that. You know, he had a lot more confidence running rougher stuff in that, and that's the idea, you know, to be able to get people to places that, and that's really the X. The X marks the spot of where the fish are going to hang out at, and you need to sometimes go through some stuff to get to that spot.
I thought the X meant tree because that's where you spent most of your day fishing.
I did.
But anyway,
I was fishing like where the fish used to hang out,
right,
like when the river was
4
up.
months ago.
Yeah.
But you know, a couple of real big takeaways. The tri-track almost gives a guy like me like mental overload. There's just so many things I can do with it. I can't really decide what I want to do with it. You know what I mean? I love the other thing about that hatch was because of the way that it goes up and over, I didn't even have to cut the hatch to run my power cord from my cameras into the inside. And I imagine if you put a depth finder in there, we talked about it during the initial walkthrough that you could put a pass through.
Yeah.
But the way that that hatch is designed, and it's got that big thick gasket on the outside, there's a little bit of a gap, and then it's got that lip. You probably could just run your cords into the inside of the boat, and you wouldn't have to drill, you know, you wouldn't have to drill into it. I love the security bar right here between my legs, so I can put that stand up or sit down assist strap right where I want it. Throw the Rogue drag strap on the front, and you know, I'll be honest with you. We talked about the motor, but this boat will probably be the boat that I just keep clean. Like I'll throw an Anchor Wizard on it, throw a black pack in it, couple of Yak Attack mounts for lock and loads, and I don't think I probably will do a lot more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think it's a great grab and go. It's already a little bit more on the heavy side, so you know, keeping that in mind, I'm probably not going to over deck it out because I want to be able to drag it up, you know, rock walls and drop it off of bridges and scoot it through the woods. And that wide rounded bottom also is going to make this thing really nice for dragging, you know, through the woods and into places and over logs and things like that.
Right.
So, all right, so Jameson, probably the last thing that was really surprising to me, even though I thought it was going to fish shallow when we did the initial hole review, is how shallow it went. This thing is probably the shallowest drafting boat that I've been in. The only thing that's probably close would be like the Attack 140.
Yeah,
But that's a 14-foot boat.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is an 11-foot 8, sub 12-foot boat. But based on the width and the length, and again, this is when I was in more the forward position. I imagine if I was in the back, I would get a little bit more of a tail drag. But I saw a spot that was so shallow, I actually started to backpedal, and I was like, wait a minute, let me just see. And I did like a half a paddle stroke and just glided right across the top of it.
Yeah.
And it was probably, you know, 2.5, 3 inches deep. And, you know, again, some of the things that I talk about not liking, like the foot pedals and some of that other stuff, those things may grow on me. You know, even when we're sitting here and we had to move because a boat showed up to the ramp, I look over and Jameson's actually brought his pedals back and he's got his heels up on the pedal, which also takes care of taking your leg off the bar. So I'll experiment a little bit more with that and kind of give you guys an update on that as I get into the advanced outfitting and rigging part of the deal. But man, I appreciate you coming by. Appreciate you hooking us up with this boat. At some point, I'm going to add a couple of these to the Chad Hoover Fishing Guide fleet. But I think what I'm going to do with this one, since it's red and blue already, is throw some white decals on it, hook up with the folks at Catch Outdoors, and turn this into like a juicy prize for the Catch 22 challenge. So
awesome.
I'll put the link in the description box below. You guys comment. Let me know, what do you think about the Jackson Coosa X? Have any questions? I'll get this knucklehead to also chime in the comment section. You can get some of the answers directly from the horse's mouth. And if he can't answer it, he can go back to the team and get answers for you guys. So if you got questions about rigging, outfitting, performance, any of the stuff that we've covered here, be sure to leave them in the comment section. Go check out his YouTube channel, The Road Trip Angler. Follow him on Instagram, Jameson Redding. It's spelled just like the whiskey, Redding. We'll probably put it right here on the screen too for you knuckleheads that, you know, can't spell to save your life. And we'll see you guys in the next video. Love y'all.